Hello everyone! If you're active on Instagram or TikTok, you couldn't have missed this new pastry that's all the rage right now. It's called a New York roll. It's sold in only a few bakeries, especially in Paris, and it's extremely hard to find. There's always a long line to get one since obviously it's gone viral. As its name suggests, it comes from the United States and it's a kind of rolled croissant filled with pastry cream or simply with a sweet spread. I think most of you don't have the opportunity or simply don't want to go all the way to those bakeries and wait for hours for these pastries. So I decided to try a recipe that's supposed to let us make them at home using supermarket ingredients. I want to check with you if it's easy to make, authentic, and most importantly, good. Let's get started right away. To start, we're going to need some cookie cutters. These are what will allow us to get the characteristic shape of the New York roll, also called the Supreme in the United States. So here, in this case, I have one that's 8 centimeters in diameter. I'm going to need to measure its height so I can adjust my cut later. So here, in this case, it's 4 centimeters. Now I'm going to take a rectangular sheet of puff pastry. It's important to use this format if you want to avoid unnecessary scraps and especially if you want something perfect. So let's go. I'm going to unroll it on my work surface. And while you're at it, get one with plenty of butter inside. So here, since it's a bit misshapen, I'm just going to flatten it out again. And now, with my ruler, I'm going to measure strips that are slightly smaller than the 4 cm of my cutter. So here, in this case, I'm going to go with 34 mm, which will allow me to get 8 identical strips. So I'm going to use a knife to make my marks. So 3.4, 6.8, 13.6, 23.8, and there you go. As you can see, we have our equal strips. Now I need to do the same on the other side. And there you go. All that's left is to cut the strips as straight as possible. That's why I used math to help me out. But of course, you can also just go by feel if you don't necessarily want something visually perfect. Even then, I'm not sure I can pull it off. Well, I won't lie to you, it's pretty satisfying to do. Now, it's totally by chance, but it happens to be exactly the width of the ruler. I could have done this a lot more simply. And there you go! Once we have our famous strips of dough, we'll need to roll them up to form our roll. So I'll start with the one that's slightly misshapen around the edges. It will be in the center, so you won't necessarily see it. Here we go. I'm going to do this gently. I'm pressing just a little bit so it's nice and tight. There we go. Perfect. And once we get to the end, we pick up the roll and move on to the next strip. I'm trying to make sure the dough doesn't overlap at the seam. You can even tap it a little to seal them together. And all that's left is to keep going until you get a roll that's just a bit smaller than the diameter of our cookie cutter. In this case, I think we're almost there. We've got our first roll. I'll just set it right here. Since I always seem to run into trouble, I'll make a second one, especially since I still have dough left. And I'll see you right after that. Now that I have my rolls of dough, I'm going to take a baking sheet. I'll place them on it along with the cookie cutters. And to keep them from puffing up too much, you need to put something on top. So, personally, I'm going to use some glass ramekins. According to the recipe, this needs to bake for 50 minutes at 200 degrees Celsius. That seems a bit long, but we'll watch it. And here is the result I got after leaving them in the oven long enough. Before taking them out, I was a bit worried they would be completely deformed, but in the end, it was just an optical illusion and I ended up with something almost perfect. I think the result is incredible. I didn't expect it to turn out this well, so I let them cool for 30 minutes. And now I suggest we add the next ingredient, which is the spread. Of course, you can use whichever one you like as long as it's not too runny. Personally, I'm going to use nocciolata. And if you're interested, I did a comparison of hazelnut spreads a few weeks ago. I'll put the link in the description. So let's start by filling our rolls. For that, I'm going to make 2 small incisions on the side. That's where we'll put our spread. Then I'll fill this syringe with my spread. You should know that you can also use a piping bag. I removed this part and here we go. I put my spread inside. As you can see, it's just right. Not too runny, not too thick. Now I can put the plunger back on and all that's left is to put our chocolate inside through the holes we made a few moments ago. I hope this will work. I put in a little. I think I'll have to do it in several spots. You just have to make sure to make the holes on the same side since we'll add another layer of spread on top. To be honest with you, it's really very dense. So it's really hard to put a lot inside, but honestly, I think this is reasonable enough. Now all that's left is to put some on top. You can leave it like that or spread it out, and we can also add some hazelnuts. And there you go, my homemade New York roll is done. Visually, it's a total success. Now, all that's left is to taste it. So, can I open it easily in front of you? Ah, well, it worked. There really is chocolate inside. Perfect, and here we go. I can't wait to eat this. It's hard to eat and messy, but wow, it's delicious. It's incredible. Just high in calories. Whoever invented this deserves credit because it's amazing. It leaves crumbs everywhere like a real pastry. Honestly, the only flaw I could find is the texture. It's not airy enough for my taste. It's not exactly like a croissant. So, in my opinion, it would be better to use yeasted puff pastry. But obviously that's also harder to find. But anyway, maybe I'm just nitpicking a bit. The recipe is still super easy to make and it's extremely good. So, it gets my approval. That's all for today. If you're interested in the topic, feel free to check out my hazelnut spread comparison. And I'll see you again soon for more adventures. Goodbye.